Hey, thanks for checking out my latest video. Please subscribe to my channel and like my videos so more people can see these. So last week was a great success in fantasy DFS golf on DraftKings. I finished first out of 83,000 in the $5 contest, 150 max entries. I think I had 80 entries total across all contests, but won $50,000 in a $5 tournament. So I wanted to share with you my some of them, a little bit of a preview and some of my picks or what I think are relative bargains and things like that for the and some thoughts for the Rocket Mortgage Classic, which starts tomorrow, June 29th. This is in Detroit, Michigan. This is a pretty easy course. And the field, although it has some big names, I'll go over this when I talk about the odds here in a second, but there's reason to sort of not like each of them in their own way. So it's an interesting one that we'll have to see how it plays out. Just taking a look quick at the past results, the metrics don't necessarily show this, but you can sort of see that bombers have tended to do well here. Now, Finau won this by 5 strokes last year. Just keep that in mind as we go forward. Jaeger, Kim, Spawn in the top 10. Year before, Cam Davis took it down. Merritt, Noren, top 10. Sanjay. Year before, we're getting back a little further history. Willett, Hadwin, Merritt again, Straka, top 10. Okay, so what I've done is put together some information I just wanted to share with you. So here's the current favorites on the betting odds. These have changed, but there's basically a group of 8 golfers that are all between 14 to 20 to 1. So it's fairly wide open. So this is sort of like what they're saying is the tier 1. Finau, Morikawa, Fowler 14 to 1, Thomas at 18 to 1, Homa, Tom Kim, Im, and Matsuyama at 20 to 1. These are projected ownerships. Now these are from Roto World and are changing and are probably not as accurate as, say, Stokastic or Rotogrinders estimates of ownership. So take them with a grain of salt, but I do show them on here. So you can see of the DraftKings projected ownership, Fowler, Matsuyama the highest, Homa, Thomas, Kim lowest, Finau only 17%. He's the most expensive salary golfer, and he won this last year by 5 strokes. But again, there's reason to, not like all these guys for various reasons. I mean, some of them, their form hasn't really been that great. Fowler could be due for a little pullback, that type of thing. So there's reasons to not have any one of these necessarily that jumps out at you. But by my rankings, I have Homa and Finau, purely numerical, as tier 1 by themselves, above the rest. So I think you need to own a decent amount of these two. Homa's salary is cheap relative to some of the other big names. His projected ownership is low, and Finau's is surprisingly low to me considering what he did last year. His salary is the highest. Among the tier 2 guys, Bradley actually pops in here with these guys. So Bradley would be sort of like the 9th one. However, the problem for him is that he won last week, and as far as I know, it's tended recently where the guy that won the week before doesn't really hit that high the week after. Now, guys that finish high up have, but not necessarily the guy that won in a big emotional victory. He might have a little bit of a pullback. He's got low ownership. But among this group, the values I have are Kim at 9,800, Im 9,400, Matsuyama 9,600. You can see the ownership percentages there. Now, relative bargains, this is all salary based, okay? And I'm going to give you some sample lineups here when I finish up. Try not to make the video too long. This is based on, again, my model, if you want to call it a model, which is sort of a formula that takes into account betting odds, world golf ranking, FedEx ranking, recent performance in this tournament previously, and various metrics and a model from another site, a free site. So, and again, I don't pay for Stokastic or Rotogrinders. I want them to give me a free subscription, but they only want to give me 1 month, so it is what it is. But if you want to sponsor my videos, I'll be happy to feature you on all your data. But here's what I have as relative bargains. You probably want to own all these guys at least once, depending on my lineups. Homa, Bradley, Harmon, Straka, Kirk, Eckroat. The green ones are the ones that are particularly the best, I would say, relative. This is all salary based as far as what's called a bargain. That's, salary is such a big thing. Eckroat, Moore, Schenk, Spawn, Hadwin, Suh, Rye, Hubbard, Brendan Wu, Stevens, Noren, Reevy, Svensson, Hodges, S.H. Kim, Ben Griffin, Yu, and Stallings. You can see almost all these guys, or quite a few, are 10% or less. With golf, there's not as many sort of 1 and 2 percenters that come in, but they do. But last week when I won, as I'll show you, I think the lowest ownership was an 8 or a 9 in the contest I won. I had an 8% owned and a 9% owned. You can look at low. Noren's, Adam Svensson, Noren, Ben Griffin, Stallings, all very, very, very low. Harmon up here at 8,800. Hadwin, Suh at 7%. And Yu's popular. Yu's probably the most popular cheap guy from what I estimated. From what I saw. Eckroat, very, very popular, 20% estimated ownership. Now, just based on sort of what I call bonus factors, or just factors, which is history in this tournament, recent form, and various metrics. These are some of the highest guys, also based on their salary. Homa, Fowler, Bradley, Thomas, Cam Davis, Eckroat, Schenk, Hubbard, Noren, C.T. Pan, Gim, Carson Young, Merritt, and Bird. Bird, 1%. Keep an eye. You want to have these guys at least once. Okay, these guys have something in their favor above the average field, or above in their slot of where their salary is based. And you can see their ownerships are pretty high. Then again, Noren, C.T. Pan, Bird, Merritt. These are super cheap guys. Now, my lineup last week didn't have a guy below early 7,000, so I don't put that many of them in there. But two others I wanted to mention are Blair and Reevy, who both had I think top 3-4 finishes last week in the Travelers. So 3% and 5%, 6,700 and 7,200. I think you want to own all these guys at least once, all these guys at least once on that. Just taking a look at Bird, for example. Now, I'm not loaded up on Bird by any means, or Merritt, but Merritt has finished top 20, I think, in this tournament 3 years in a row. And Bird, let me just check one thing on here. Yeah, he finished 12th at the Canadian Open a couple weeks ago, and then 16th at the Punta Cana. And he made the last 4 cuts. And these are not necessarily great tournaments, but neither is the Rocket Mortgage. And this guy's 6,400 with nobody projected to own him. So if you want to look for a deep, deep, deep sleeper, 80 fantasy points each game. If you want to look for a deep, deep, deep sleeper, that's one to consider. Considering that they're projecting the ownership only at 1%, less than 1% actually. And then Blair and Reevy, let me just take a look at Blair real quick too. And again, I don't own a ton of these guys, but second in the Travelers, 47th at the Wells Fargo, 10th at the Valspar. Now, he does sort of have a hit, miss, so it could be due for a miss. But again, you're talking about a 6,700 golfer with a 3% projected ownership. So let me show you a couple of lineups that I put together all my lineups manually. But I'll give you 3 lineups that sort of would like meet are sort of like the best value combination type thing for me with completely different players. Last week I showed in my video about the winning tournament one that I probably would have given out 2 lineups, and if I had, the first one had 2 missed cuts, but the second one had 3 or 4 guys in the top 10, so that one would have made over what the first one cost, at least broken even, but definitely I think would have made over. You would have been profitable if you played the 2. But here was the lineup I won on last week. Cantley, Fowler, McCarthy, Harmon, Bradley, and Minwoo Lee. This were the ownership percentages, and these were my exposure. So I was overexposed on them. It was a 49,800 lineup, like a 10,000 guy, 9,000 guy, and some mid 7,000 guys. All of them were under 100 to 1 to win the tournament. And I believe they were all in my top, I'd have to go look, top 30 or 40 ranked players coming into it. You can see, even though Cantlay, I had one of them as my best 2 blue chips, I actually was underweight him a little bit. But all the rest, I was either equal weight or overweight. So 3 lineups for this week. Homa, M, Tyler Moore, Schenk, Spawn, and Hubbard. This sort of fits the salary profile last week. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come in that way. It could come in, 2 top names and some 6,000s. It could come in a bunch of 8 and 9,000s. It's a variety. But just give you a few 3 sample lineups. So Homa, M, Moore, Schenk, Spawn, Hubbard. These are my exposures. These might change a bit, but overexposed, slightly underexposed, overexposed, equal, and over adds up to a pretty healthy overexposed or heavier allocation for me in these guys in the field. That's generally how you're going to do well. And also here, let's see, I had a 9 and 8%, 11%. There's a 10, 11, 12%. The next one's really, I guess you could call under, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like a leverage. Has more leverage guys, but Finau, Straka, and again, these are all different players. Finau, Straka, Kirk, Brendan Wu, Hostler, and Reeve. This one adds up to 50,000 on the nose. You have the most expensive player, a couple 8,000s, 7 and a low 7. I'm overexposed on that. Quite a bit overexposed on Straka and Kirk. Wu, Hostler, a bit overexposed on him, or higher allocation than the field likely. Reeve as well. This one, that almost seems like it's incorrect. 30. No, that's right. Way high gap on that if it comes in like this and where I'm situated currently. Some of this is due to that, that they're projecting Fowler and some of these guys super high. But anyway, the next lineup, the third one, Tom Kim, Eckroat, Hadwin, Suh, Rye, and Hoge. Tom Hoagie. Is it Hoagie? Tom Hoagie? And this is more of a mid type, likely to cash type lineup if you look at the salaries. If you like those kind of lineups, you could. So here I have 88% allocation approximately. They're projecting the field 63%, slightly under on Kim, slightly under on Eckroat. Above on Hadwin, above on Suh, a little bit above on Ryan, well above on Hoagie. And this last slot is sort of the problem with this one because I had quite a bit left over, but looking to do different lineups for each one. So that's another third sample lineup I'll give you. And then if you want to look at what they're projecting sort of the chalk would be, which I recommend you should probably play a chalk lineup, especially in a cash or type one, but even in GPPs. I mean, this isn't super chalk, but this is basically, if you look at RotoWire's projected ownership, something like this might be a chalk lineup. Fowler, Eckroat, Aberg, On, Spawn, and Carson Young. And I'm underweight on this. Decently underweight on Fowler, about a little bit on Eckroat and Aberg, a little bit on, about equal on Spawn, and on Carson Young. So I'm underweight Carson Young and Fowler. That makes up, I'd say, the majority of this difference. On that one, and that comes out 49,800. All right, so I hope you find this helpful, and I hope you have good luck this week. Again, subscribe, like, and comment. So on a numerical basis, Homa and Finau, basically my formula, are a tier above, and so should be owned fairly heavily, which I am. And last week I had Cantlay and Scheffler as the best of a top 4 tier, and I was heavier owned on those, and those came in tied. What was it? Tied third. So keep that in mind. Finau won this by 5 strokes last year, and he's under-owned. Homa has been in bad form recently, for the most part, but this is a perfect sort of contrarian bounce back opportunity. In the same way, it's sort of a contrarian Fowler fade. If you ask me without numbers who I think will win this, or who I could visualize winning this, it probably would be Finau, Justin Thomas, or Tom Kim. But On a numerical basis, that's where it is. And I gave you some of the bargains, some of the guys who have sort of the factors in their favor, which includes like history on this tournament, recent form, various metrics that were measured, such as course comps, various shots gained on certain metrics like that. And then Blair and Reevy has a couple wild cards that finished very high last week and are going to be very low owned. So you can see a lot of guys, what their ownerships are on here. And again, these were probably the best bargain salary-wise. You could also possibly say Harmon and Kirk in there. Again, Keegan is as well, but I'm kind of underweighting him because he won last week. Harmon, Straka, Kirk, Eckert, Moore, Schenk, Spawn. This doesn't mean I'm not saying you shouldn't have Aberg and people like that. It's just who you may want to be overweight relative to what the field is. And again, these RotoWire, Roto World, it's RotoWire. RotoWire projected ownerships could be quite a bit off. All right, that's it again. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos so they can get seen by more people. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. I hope everybody, including me, has good luck this week, and maybe we'll hit something like this. We're hit first place at 83,000. That's pretty hard to do, but keep it in mind. And again, thanks for viewing, and have a good one.